Today I'm exploring the old town of Plovdiv, an area that is known for its Ottoman era style houses. Some of these houses you can actually pay to go in and explore. This is the Hindlian house, which is one of many Ottoman era houses in the old town. This was built in 1835. So this is the Balabanov house, which was built in the early 19th century. It did actually get destroyed in 1936. It was rebuilt again in the 1970s. So this is actually not that old. The whole of the first floor is an art gallery. Guest house Old Plovdiv seems to be popular with cats. This is a really beautiful part of the city. You wouldn't think you're in the same city as Kapana, which is just literally 2 minutes over that way. It's just so different. They look really nice. The old town has led me to Nebet Tepe, which is one of the 6 hills of Plovdiv. There used to be 7. But one was quarried for the materials to build the town many years ago. So this is one of 3 hills in the old town, and this is probably the most popular one. And this is where they've found remains that show that people lived here 6,000 years BC. You can see this is actually part of an old fortress. We can see the old walls. We'll go down there in a second, but let's go and check out some of the views. So this area here is Kapana, and this is where I'm staying. This is the district that has kind of had a new lease of life since 2014. It's now filled with restaurants and coffee shops and art galleries and bars. And I'm right in the centre of it. Are you cats as friendly as the ones in... Tease. Plovdiv's actually the second biggest city in Bulgaria. And you can see how far it stretches all around. It's surrounded by mountains over there. I don't know if you can see on the horizon. So I'm not exactly sure how much is worth looking at over there, whether it's just business and residential. I need to do a bit more research, I think. Everything I've saved on Google Maps, places to see, things of interest, are all centred around the old town. But that's probably because most tourists just visit the old town and that's it. They probably see no reason to go and visit or to explore in this vast area over here. But I'm sure there's some things worth checking out. It's quite sad. Past tense. This is the Regional History Museum of Plovdiv. It's a beautiful building. So the real step back in time. Just before I head into my third and final house, something down here called Street of Crafts. It's very confusing. I think that was the Street of Crafts, but here it says it's 150 metres away. None of that makes any sense. Oh, here we go. English. I've just headed out of the old town to the east side and come across the ancient ruins of the eastern gate of Philippopolis, the ancient city. Well, this sign is saying that the Street of Crafts is 150 metres away. It's just there. It basically just starts here. So you've got like wood carvers and things like that on the street.
Hello.
Hello.
Смисъл, той го гравира, но не го изрязва.
Look at you,
Няма мощност. Да, по... Даже аз, защото ги режа сега в момента с културния трион, аз това ти казвам, че се надявам друго.
Textiles, I think. Oh, hello. Hello. Are you looking after the shop? Hello. Cat made me jump. Oh, beautiful, aren't you? This is the third of the houses that I'm visiting. The last one, the house of Nikola Nedkovich, built in 1863. And from the outside, this really doesn't look like much. But once you step into the yard, it's pretty beautiful. Out of the three houses that I visited, that was the only one that wouldn't let me take any photos or film. And inside, it's probably a little bit tatty than the others. The others have certainly been restored much better than this one. There are cracks in the walls. Some of the ceiling has fallen down. Some of the ceiling's supported by scaffolding. The fresco paintings have cracked and started to peel away. The upholstery on the furniture is threadbare. Now, despite that, or maybe because of that, I think that was my favourite one. I mean, how long have some of these glasses been here? I wonder how much they sell in a day. In Spanish, you've got these, this is 40, so that's almost £20 just for that. So they don't have to sell too many. I wouldn't like to do a stock check in this place. Now, each of the houses that I visited cost 5 lei each. If you buy one of these tickets, you can visit 5 for 15 lei. Now I've paid 19 because you have to pay extra if you want to include the Roman stadium with the 3D performance. So I've still got that to do, but that's back over in Kapana. But up here is the fourth of my attractions that I'm going to visit, and it's the one that's at the top of the list, the ancient theatre. It's very easy to get lost around here. You come to a junction like the one at the bottom, you look left and you look right, and they both look really beautiful. Check this out. Wow. This is amazing. Now the guy, when he let me in, did say be careful because they're steep steps, and he wasn't kidding. Bloody hell. I've played on some stages in my time, but none like this. The ancient theatre of Philippopolis was built in the late 1st century and existed as a theatre until the 4th century. Following excavation research in the 1970s, the theatre was unearthed and partially restored. It's one of the best preserved ancient theatres in the world. The theatre now does still host events. Concerts take place, holding up to 3,000 people. Cat feeding time. Check out the lovely mosaic. Is that gunshots? Not what you expect to hear in the tranquil old town of Plovdiv. Well, that's it for the old town of Plovdiv. I'm now heading back to the top of the main pedestrian street in Plovdiv to visit the Roman Stadium, where I'm going to watch a 3D performance. This is the main pedestrian street in Plovdiv, and as you walk up right to the top, you come across this, the ancient stadium of Philippopolis, which was built in the 2nd century and could hold up to 30,000 people. Now the remains of the stadium actually run all the way down the street to the remains that are visible at the bottom. Most of it is covered by the shops, but this part you can go in for free, but they also run a 3D show, and that's what I'm going to go and have a look at now. This is where we are now, and this is just about the bit that we can see, and if I zoom out you can see just how big the stadium was. Somewhere around here there's a H&M, and I'm going to go there in a second. I'll let you know why when we get there. This would have been the actual site of the arena. All the seats would go down both sides, and this would be where they would have their sporting events. Now the show doesn't start for another 25 minutes, so I thought I'd just walk down here and visit H&M. Now H&M's not a place where I would normally visit, but this is a H&M with a difference. The reason why I've come to H&M is because when they were doing some building down here, they came across this. In 2005 and 2006, archaeological excavations unearthed a sector of the eastern area of the stadium of Philippopolis. Hard to believe that this is in a H&M. That's just incredible. This is the eastern part of the stadium. Thousands of people would be sat all down the east side of the stadium and the west side of the stadium watching sports events that took place here. This is where we are now, just here. This is where the 3D museum is. Now this is a H&M. This is a picture of the excavations of the stadium in 1975. Here we are. This is where people would sit and watch all the sporting events. And now it's a H&M. So here we go then. Plovdiv, a touch of art and history in 3D. At the south side of the pedestrian street we have more Roman ruins. This is the old Roman Forum. With that wonderfully grim communist post office building just behind it. There doesn't appear to be any information about this. I thought this was the south side of the stadium, but it's not. It's a little bit further away. Well, there's some more ruins here, quite a lot. I don't know if you can get to them. There are paths to go around, but both of the entrances seem to be, well, there's an entrance there as well, but they all seem to be locked up. It's unfortunate that this is closed, because there's more here than there are in the forum over there. This is the Forum at Odeon, and there we have the front of what used to be the Basilica. This used to be a library. You can see the guttering to for the drainage. There used to be shops there. It's quite a lot still here, but unfortunately it's closed to the public. If you take the stairs from the Milo statue, over here, they'll bring you to this hill, where apparently there's a huge clock tower, and it also offers views over the city as well. So there's a view from the other side. You can see the Balkan mountain range that surrounds the city, and we've got the old Soviet monument just over there. Now I've come up here for the clock tower, but it looks like I've took a wrong turn, because that's over there, so I need to make my way back down. So here is the clock tower of Danube Hill in Plovdiv. There's been a clock tower standing here since the late 16th century, and it does still ring out 24 chimes at midday and midnight. Well, I missed that. It's actually just rang out twice. It's 2 o'clock. The sign says it just rings out at midnight and midday, but obviously the sign is wrong. Well, back in the main square now. You can see the sunshine's brought everyone out. All the coffee shops are doing a roaring trade. This is the Bishop's Basilica of Philippopolis, and under the Romans a temple stood on this site, which was then replaced with a majestic church, the Bishop's Basilica. And apparently inside you can see lots and lots of mosaics. This was the entrance to the Grand Basilica, and in the centre of this mosaic we have a peacock which represented immortality, an idea borrowed from the early pagans. So when people used to enter the Grand Basilica, they used to stand here and face the entrance and then enter for the Mass. The foundations of the temple here. Wow, check this out. The ancient city of Philippopolis was constantly under siege, and eventually the people left the city and went and lived in the Three Hills. The ruins of the Basilica were built over. People started building houses during the Ottoman rule, and then eventually the houses gave way to a cemetery, and there's evidence of all three, all on the same spot. It's the largest ruin of a Christian church in the whole of Bulgaria. And just a few seconds ago there was a guy doing some restoration work just there. This inscription marks the event when all the mosaics were completed. Only part of it remains. You actually see remains of swastika symbols. One of the oldest symbols in the world. It represents the sun, and it was common in Balkan art. This mosaic was actually discovered in the 1980s, but proper excavation and conservation were not possible. When restorers came back to it in the early 2000s, they discovered that the peacock in the middle of the mosaic had gone. No one knows what happened to it. You can see here the different layers of mosaics. You have the original floor at the back there, you can see it quite clearly, and then when the church was damaged by an earthquake, it was impossible to repair, so they basically just put a new floor over the top. So they've actually got two layers of mosaics. Here we have an old tomb that was built on top of the mosaics, which suggests it was probably a very prominent figure. It's kind of crazy to think that up until the 1980s, this entire site was completely covered. Modern streets and houses were built on top, and people had no idea of the history that was just beneath their feet. This is the small basilica, which was actually only excavated around 15 years ago. As you can see, this one's called the small basilica for a reason. Didn't really need to see that one. That was basically like just a small part of the big one, and once you've been to the big one you can skip the small one. It was only an extra £3 if you buy a combined ticket, so it cost me £1. That site that we've just been looking at was actually only discovered in the late 1980s during the construction of high-rise apartments, which I'm presuming is these. Now you kind of get the feeling that wherever they dig in Plovdiv, they're just going to find more. This is a nice idea. Modern mosaics made with bottle tops. And that's it for my exploration of old Plovdiv. I have done another video which is in the streets of Kapana, the area that I'm in right now, so go over and check that one out too. Until next time, ta-ta!